What's up, everybody? Welcome to Eternally Disappointed, Week 18 little video / podcast, whatever you want to call it. It's also the week before the UFC kicks off their year, so I'm super excited about that. Let's just get right to it. There's only one game that really matters this week, especially since this is supposed to be a podcast about Bills, and that's the Sunday night game between the Dolphins and Buffalo, and the winner gets the number 2 seed, the AFC East crown, this and that. I started this podcast, and before the season, I said that Buffalo would miss the playoffs because they're a talented but poorly coached team, which is why they seem to make a lot of forced errors and a lot of shooting themselves in the foot, costing themselves games. And even though they've done a lot of things differently, I still see a lot of the same team. I changed my opinion a couple of weeks ago when I realized how much of the other teams were falling apart, and you have to give Buffalo a lot of credit for as many injuries and bad games as they've had. For them to still be in it is very impressive. And even though I'd like to be right, just for the sake of being one of the few people that said Buffalo would miss the playoffs before the season and being right about it, they're going to crush Miami this weekend. The one thing I've been consistent on is the 3 fraudulent teams in the league: Dallas, Miami, and Kansas City. Miami is very, very, very injured. Miami is coming off of a very bad loss, and I think that Buffalo has found a way to win ugly games. I think Buffalo, being the highest run percentage team, meaning they run the ball more than any other team in the league since Joe Brady took over play calling, combined with how banged up Miami's D-line is, how banged up their secondary is, and how banged up their offensive line is when you've got Daquan Jones returning and so forth and so on. I think this should be a pretty smooth night for Buffalo. And because of the way things are, if Buffalo comes out hot and it's a 21-0 game by the middle of the second quarter, just hypothetically speaking, or if they just have a large lead kind of early, Miami might pull their players and be like, we need to rest because we have to go to Kansas City next weekend. I think Buffalo is going to beat Miami. I think the playoffs are going to start, and I think eventually you're going to see Buffalo playing Cleveland for the AFC Championship. I think Cleveland's going to come in, win a wild card game, and I think Cleveland's going to go to Baltimore and give Baltimore problems. That's just how I see it. I don't know why. I just get that feeling. I could be wrong, but I think that Buffalo is going to win this weekend, and Buffalo has a chance to really make a deep playoff run. Even though before the season started, I said they weren't going to make the playoffs. If Herbert and Joe Burrow don't get injured, my prediction is correct. But things work out a certain way. It's funny how things go like that. Besides that, there's interesting games here and there. We're about to kick off the Saturday games here in a little bit. But there's only one game that really matters this weekend, and that is Buffalo against Miami. If Buffalo loses, if I'm Terry Pagula, the owner of the Bills, and Buffalo goes to Miami, as banged up as they are, and they have a bad performance, Sean McDermott is getting a Spirit Airlines ticket home because he's fired. I think Sean McDermott should be fired anything short of a Super Bowl. Because I've been saying since last season, why doesn't this team run the ball more? Why doesn't this team hand the ball off more? Why is everything on Josh Allen? And how come half the time Josh Allen plays, it's like he's only looking for digs? And all I've heard is, well, they don't have the personnel to be good at running the ball. Well, I'm pretty sure Devin Singletary was on the team a couple of years ago, and he's cooking for them in Houston. And I'm pretty sure that it's the same team as the beginning of the season, and now James Cook is taking off on everybody. It's not the fact that they can't run the ball. It's the fact that they didn't run the ball because they had Ken Dorsey, an idiot, calling their plays. But it's on the head coach to go to the coordinator and say, run the ball more. It's ultimately the head coach's choice. And the only reason McDermott hasn't been fired yet is because Joe Brady came in and turned the offense around and put the team in a position where they could go into Los Angeles or host New England and play terrible and still win the game. They couldn't do that earlier this season. They couldn't. And if Dorsey was still calling plays, they would have lost to New England last week and they would have lost to the Chargers the week before. So the only reason McDermott hasn't been fired is because fucking Joe Brady came and saved his ass. He should still be fired. If they don't win the Super Bowl, his ass should go. And they either should get Belichick or just get an offensive head coach. Okay? I think if you have Belichick, who's a defensive head coach, he could eventually get some people to work with Josh Allen and fix the offense so they don't shoot themselves in the foot so much. Because as much as I like James Cook, Devin Singletary fumbled way less. And what we don't need this weekend is for this fucking guy to fumble the ball and let Miami come back and beat us. That's what we don't need. But when you have a shit head coach like Sean McDermott, that's exactly what you're going to get. Which is why I get so fucking fired up and had to start this fucking channel in the first place. Sean McDermott sucks. I'll give him credit on defense. He's a good defensive play caller. He does some pretty good stuff. But as a head coach, he's got to go. Because I'm just a guy who coaches flag football saying that this is what this team should have been doing last season and they just figured it out. Maybe he should pay me his salary. But he's not. And we're going to see what happens this weekend. But if Buffalo doesn't have a deep playoff run, he's got to go. McDermott has to go, and they need to get somebody in there that can put a team together. The same team, but have them work in a way that they don't shoot themselves in the foot all the time. Turnovers, inopportune penalties, or penalties at an inopportune time, all the stupid shit that happens. Because I'm tired of seeing it as a Bills fan. Speaking of bad coaching, Mike Vrabel somehow looks like he's going to keep his job at the end of the season, and that baffles the shit out of me. I don't want to hear any of these excuses about John Robinson. And I was listening to the Two Tone Talk podcast the other day, and Brad Steele said that, one of the things about Vrabel is no coach could do well with that team. And that's a fair point, except this. If you want to be successful in this league, you need 4 things, okay? You need a good general manager that can somehow acquire quality talent. And then you need, from there, a coach whose coaching staff can develop that talent. I don't think Josh Allen has been developed the way he should and doesn't play to his potential because he makes the same mistakes he made when he was a rookie. He turns the ball over like he's a rookie. He makes idiotic decisions like he's a rookie, except until Brady took over. Why did it take 5 years? So, good GM that can acquire good talent and a coach that can develop, or a coaching staff that can develop that talent. That's 2 things. The other 2 things you need are a good scheme and the personnel to execute that scheme. There's a lot of teams that know how to beat the Dolphins. There's a lot of teams that know that Tua is a 1-2-3, and if his reads aren't there, he's lost. But they don't have the personnel to be able to put him in that position. Buffalo does. That's why Buffalo's going to win this game this weekend. Waddle's not playing. Mostert's not playing. Half the offensive line isn't playing. Or the starting offensive line isn't playing. So, Buffalo better not lose this game. McDermott's job should be on the line. Mike Vrabel in Tennessee. I don't want to hear anything about John Robinson because you have a new GM. You've got good talent. You had a good draft this year. Whose fault is it that no matter who goes on your offensive line, they seem to forget how to block? That's on him. Vrabel should be fired. Robert Saleh should be fired. Ron Rivera should be fired. I'm firing Brian Daboll in New York. Okay? Because even if you have a bad team, even if you have a team that your quarterback gets injured on the 4th play of the season, or you just, you don't have good guys in that position, there's a difference between playing with a bad team and going out there every week and looking like you're ill-prepared. The Jets play, and half the time they play, and I'm like, they look like they didn't practice 1 minute all week. The Titans go out, and they look like they haven't practiced for 30 seconds all week, and I can't figure it out. But all that matters is this weekend and one game, which is the last game of the season. So buckle up, motherfuckers. 2024 just started, and this rocket just took off. Until then, stay frosty, and I'll see you on the other side.